Now that you know the symbols, let's talk counting rhythms. In band class, we count rhythms in a specific way. In this example here, you see 4 quarter notes. We would count them by using numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's what it would sound like with our trusty friend, the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how it's with the beat, with the pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how you count quarter notes. Now, how you write it is just by putting the number 1 right underneath the quarter note, the number 2 right underneath the second quarter note, so on and so forth. Now, as you've already seen, let's talk about what happens when you see a rest. Already, we've got the number 1 underneath the first quarter note because that's beat number 1. Beat number 2 has the number 2 right underneath the quarter note rest, but it's in parentheses, which means it's silent. It's a silent beat, but it's there. You have to be silent on count 2. Count 3, or beat 3, has a quarter note and a number 3 underneath it, and beat 4 has a 4 and a quarter note underneath it. Let's show you what this sounds like here with our trusty friend, the metronome. 1, 3, 4. So it sounds like this. Sound, silence, sound, sound. 1, 3, 4. So again, when you're writing in rests, if you see a rest, you put it in parentheses. You put the number in parentheses. Now let's talk about half notes. These are sustained notes, notes that are longer than quarter notes. For this example, you see 2 of them. Each one gets 2 counts. So count 1, and then right here on this dash would be also count 2. But since it's a sustained note, a long note, you just put a dash. So when you're writing it, when we ask you to write the counts for a half note, you'd write the number it starts on and then a dash, because that is count 2. So it would be a sustained note. It would sound like this. 1. Notice how I sustained it all the way to count 3. I'm going to add count 3 with it now. 1, 3. Make sense? I'm not adding a rest here because there's no rest. I'm not adding a rest. I'm just saying 1 and I'm sustaining it. 1, 3. Now let's add a half rest in the mix. Now it's on count 3 and 4. Notice how it's in parentheses, so when you're writing in rests, the numbers have to be in parentheses. Number 1, because the half note starts there, and then a dash for the sustain, and then counts 3 and 4 are silent. That's what it looks like. That's how you would write it. Here's what it would sound like. Ready? Go. 1. Notice how count 3 and count 4 are silent. Do it again. Ready? Go. 1. Here's what it would look like in whole notes. It's a whole note. We've talked about the sustain. A whole note gets 4 counts. You start with the number 1 because that's when the whole note starts. Whole note gets 4 counts. So therefore count 2, count 3, and 4 are all sustained, and you just put the dashes. So if you see this example in your worksheets, if you see a whole note, you put the number 1, and then you put 3 dashes after it. This dash represents count 2. This dash represents count 3, and that last one counts for count 4. Here's what it would sound like. Ready? Go. Sound. Ready? Again. Sound. Notice how I stop after 4 counts. That's what it looks like. Now, what if you have a whole rest? That's what it would look like. Now, how does it sound? Well, it's just 4 counts of silence. So it'd sound like this. Sound, silence, 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 silence. You wouldn't hear anything. You wouldn't play your instrument during that rest. But how do you write it? Well, it's the same thing as any other rest. You just put the number 1, 2, 3, 4 underneath the whole rest, but you put it in parentheses. You put parentheses around the number 1, around the number 2, around the number 3, and around the number 4.